The film which you are about to see is an account of the insanely unlucky day that befell a diver near the coast of Massachusetts. Originally from the beautiful fishing coastal town of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, 57-year-old Michael Packard was a married man with 2 teenage boys and at one point was considered one of the most successful fishermen in all of Cape Cod. And while he's an expert at catching both tuna and lobster, he has a rather unorthodox way of capturing his lobster prey. You see, instead of using traps like everyone else, he dives, chases, and catches them all by hand, which many people would see as crazy, as many predators like great white sharks call the bay home. Despite the threat though, Michael honestly thinks of this time in the ocean as his home away from home. On the fateful day of June 11th, 2021, Michael and his crewmate Josiah Mayo set sail like any other day as they were planning on diving for more lobsters. As they got there, everything was going to plan and Michael was able to get multiple lobsters on his first and second dive. Though unfortunately, this would now change for his third dive. As Michael was diving down, he remembers almost reaching the bottom when all of a sudden he remembers getting hit with what seemed like a freight train. Then, all within a matter of seconds, he remembers everything just going dark. All Michael remembers thinking to himself was that he had just been teleported, or maybe somehow he was just even eaten by a shark. Though after taking a second to realize that he wasn't cut anywhere and that he was in somewhere much larger than a shark's mouth, he within seconds realized that he was now in the mouth of a whale, a 32-foot humpback whale, to be more specific. Then before he knew it, the whale took off with him still in its mouth. Sailing through the water with such intensity, all Michael could remember was a jet stream of water battering his face to the point that his regulator was ripped from his mouth. Luckily though, it stayed attached to him, so he was easily able to grab it and put it back. All the while, he was shrouded in complete darkness. He began to feel around slightly and remembers being surrounded by hard muscles and a horrible feeling in his legs as they were trapped in the behemoth's jaws and slowly being crushed. And for the next few moments was struggling in vain to get free to even move around. Then after realizing the only way that he would get out is if the whale actually let go of his legs and let him out, he quietly thought to himself, "This is it. This is how I go." His worst fears being that the whale would swim too far out to sea, making being rescued impossible. Or the absolute worst case scenario, the whale panics and does a deep dive into the ocean, which causes Michael to suffer a slow and painful death as he drowns and gets crushed to death. Luckily for Michael though, he still had a full tank of air that could last him up to 50 minutes, and he at least had the peace of mind of knowing that he wouldn't be eaten, and that he was mainly just stuck for the time being. Then all of a sudden, and without warning, the massive animal began swimming back up towards the surface as fast as possible, while simultaneously thrashing around angrily as it visibly was starting to not like the feeling of Michael being in its mouth. Meanwhile, back at the surface, Josiah was totally oblivious to everything that had just happened, as suddenly he begins to notice a manic whale just a few feet from his boat, thrashing around. Panicked, not knowing what was going on, Josiah was about to get the boat ready as to not get damaged by the obviously irate whale right next to him, when all of a sudden, in the middle of the commotion, he sees his crewmate being thrown out of the water with his legs clearing the air. Then next thing he remembered was seeing Michael's body floating in the water as the obviously traumatized behemoth had already disappeared into the dark depths of the ocean. Then at the same time, Michael remembered just looking up at the sky while floating and just having the greatest feeling of being alive he ever felt. Then, due to his leg, he then immediately yelled out in pain for help, which luckily Josiah and a nearby charter vessel, which was Michael's neighbor, were already rushing over to help get him out of the water and back into safety. It was then a 20-minute ride back to shore as they brought him to Cape Cod Hospital, where he miraculously only suffered a ligament damage to the leg that had become trapped. And not able to stay away for long from his love of the sea, only a few short weeks later he was already back in the ocean diving for lobsters, as this miraculously was not the first time Michael escaped the jaws of death. You see, 11 years earlier, while traveling to Costa Rica, he was a passenger in a small plane that ended up crashing into the thick Costa Rican jungle, instantly killing the pilot, co-pilot, and one of the 6 passengers, all while Michael suffered multiple serious injuries to his abdomen, upper body, but nothing too serious that he couldn't walk. The remaining 5 passengers, including Michael, were then stranded for 2 days before rescued, which luckily they found them, as they wouldn't have survived one more night in the open. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of this 21st century version of Jonah and the Whale? And let me know, what would you have personally done if you had found yourself in his same position? And once again, thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell for more content in the future. Goodbye for now.